Welcome to Health versus Wealth with Dr. Ben, where each week it's my great pleasure to meet fascinating people who tell us about the challenges they're facing with their work-life balance. I'm Dr. Ben Sinclair, and I wonder, do you struggle with your priorities? On the one hand, focusing on your work, business or career, namely your wealth, or on the other hand, looking after your health, which is so important. Over the past 20 years as a GP, I've seen many people spending too long on their screens, cutting corners on their sleep, diet or exercise. The result? Their work life's going well, but their health can suffer. I sincerely hope that my guests' personal and professional experiences may help you to improve your own health and life. Today I'm joined by Dean Russell, who runs Pier 52 watersports at Chasewater Country Park near Walsall. Dean, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
Thank you for coming on. Now, I know you're a very successful businessman at the moment in the watersports industry, but you didn't start there, did you? You started in the music industry. Tell me about that.
Yeah, no, I did. I did start in the music industry many years ago, back in my very early 20s. I actually moved to the area because I used to rap and break dance for a Christian charity. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So yeah, had that old scene, which was very good fun at the time. We made a CD, YouTube before everything was in high def, so you can go on YouTube and watch our very low resolution music
Is it all
video.
grainy?
Yeah, that's it, all pixelated and stuff. But,
awesome.
But
What was
yeah,
it
was
called?
great fun. So the group was called Redefined.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah,
and do you still have any breakdance moves now, or is it?
I like to try if there's a wedding and I've had a couple of drinks, but no, I'm more inclined to break something other than dance moves. It's going to be my body now.
Dancing rather than break dancing.
Yeah, shoulders gone, knees gone, everything.
It does come to us, doesn't it?
Yeah, oh, mate, it really does.
Now, I know, after that, you embarked on a bit more of a steady job. How did you get into that?
So I did the music thing for 3 years.
Okay.
I was with a girl at the time who was telling me to get a proper job, as it goes.
Proper job.
Yeah.
I love
well, I was working for a charity, doing the
Okay.
music thing. You know how creative people are. They have a dream, they want to succeed and everything like that. But there has to be a time where, okay, I need to get a proper, more steady job. So she was telling me to apply for jobs and stuff like that. And I wasn't really interested at the time. And then she saw that West Midlands Police were opening their application. She said, why don't you apply for this? And to be honest, I'd never even considered it or even give it a second thought about joining the police.
Interesting.
If I'm honest, I put the application form in just to keep her quiet, to keep her happy for a bit. I can remember writing the application form whilst I was at Spring Harvest in Skegness, posted it off, thought, that's it, I'm never going to get past that phase because I've spent no time on it.
Got you.
Come home a few weeks later, got through that application phase. I was like, oh, okay. Went to the next one, which I think was like an aptitude test or something like that. And then physical, medical, all that sort of stuff. And then each stage that we kind of went through, I was getting a little bit more appeal to it. And I was like, oh, this might actually be all right. And the ironic thing is that by the time I ended up joining the police, we'd split up.
No way, but maybe it just moved you in the right direction.
Yeah, it certainly did. Yeah.
And you stayed with the police, 12 years?
Yeah, so I was on the police for 12 years, started out in response, did that for many years and then ended up at CID.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what happened to finish your time with the police?
So I'm technically still on a career break. Okay. So I could tomorrow tell the police that I'm coming back and walk back into the job. But I left the police on a career break to start my watersports company. Mm-hmm. So I took over at Pier 52 in Cannock, and it needed a lot more time than working in the police and doing that on the side as well. Mm-hmm. So I took a career break, threw myself full time into working, trying to build a business.
Wow. Yeah. And now that was quite a therapeutic activity you chose. Mm-hmm. And I know you actually had quite a nasty accident when you're in the police force. Can you tell me a bit about what happened?
Sure. So it was Christmas Eve actually, and I was working nights, and I won't go into all the circumstances too much, but I ended up overshooting around a corner, approaching a roundabout, went up onto the curb, swerved across the roundabout, onto the middle of the roundabout, hit a tree. Fortunately, it was a young tree. So it uprooted, but it did smash the front of the van up, send us sideways, flipped onto the side.
Wow.
And then steam everywhere from the radiator, and was having to climb out, and
quite a big accident.
Yeah,
were you with another?
So I was with a colleague who was in the passenger seat. I can remember when we was on our side, he took his seatbelt off, and I literally caught him because obviously just gravity.
Whoa.
And then helped him out, and then I climbed out. Fortunately, there's no serious injuries. He had a bit of whiplash, but I managed to get out okay. So physically, you were like a bit shaken up, but not any major injuries. No. But I understand, a lot of us have been in accidents. It's often not the physical, is it? Yeah. No. So it really impacted me mentally more than anything. So it didn't happen straight away with regards to how much it affected me mentally. I climbed out. Obviously, there was investigation at the time. They sent me home. Went home, told my wife I'd just been in a car accident. Obviously, it was Christmas Eve, which wasn't ideal. No. And then I think it was maybe January the 3rd, something like that, just after New Year. I went back to work, thinking I could do it. And as soon as I walked in, I just couldn't. Like if you can imagine, like someone like me in the corner of a police station in the office, just breaking down in tears. Yeah. And it was the first time that it kind of realised that it was an issue when I went back, because I was back into that environment. Obviously, I was at home in my safe place, went back to work, and then I was like, oh, this could be an issue. I tried to persevere, kept on going back to work, but just wasn't myself. I'm quite a laid back, chilled, happy person, and I was getting really short and snappy with a lot of people. Yeah. And obviously, as a police officer, that's not a good place to be in. No, hard. Because you've got so many people you can't be snappy with, because you might escalate something. Exactly. Yeah. And I talked to my wife, and we came to the conclusion that it's best if I took a bit of time off. My sergeant at the time was really supportive. So I took a bit of time off. Turns out I had a bit of anxiety, and sorted a bit of medication. And a massive turning point for me was when the investigation of the accident was completed, and because that's what really affected me. There was a few things that affected me. One was the uncertainty of the investigation, because I genuinely climbed out that van thinking I'm going to get sacked because of the circumstances, and then that hanging over me, I couldn't deal with. Must be. I mean, it's one thing to have an accident. It's another thing to have someone scrutinising your every move running up to, an accident. And often our feelings don't ever begin to get a chance to resolve until the legal process is settled. It's the same with people are waiting for a claim for an injury. Yeah. Their physical stuff doesn't start getting better. Yeah. For you, probably that was the beginning, I suppose. 100%. So you founded Pier 52, and what I love is that it's a really therapeutic thing. Tell me more about the sort of people, you're looking after sort of children, adults in that environment. Yeah. What sort of activities do you do? So we do stand-up paddleboarding, which really exploded at the time, and was just everyone wanted to paddleboard, and they still do. So it's petered out a little bit now. Wakeboarding, so we've got 2 wakeboard cables. For myself, that was the thing that drew me most to Pier 52 as a wakeboarder. Yeah. So I took it over for that reason. And then it had the stand-up paddleboarding, and since then we've introduced kayaking. Okay. At the time we had the Ringo, that's had to stop this year. Okay. We just love the water sports element of it, and it was like a dream taking it over, because it was just, you go from one profession, and the police being like high stress, accountable to your superiors, all that sort of stuff, to actually working on your own. Yeah. And being the master of your own destiny with, if you like, with business, in an environment that has brought me personally so much therapy, if you like, with regards to like being on the water sports, and now being able to offer that to other people has been brilliant. That's awesome, isn't it? And it's, I mean, what I love about stuff like paddleboarding, because I love paddleboarding as well, is that it's sort of mindful, because it's slow. Yeah.
And I've found that I've gone down waterways and spotted things. I used to have a bit of a boat and zoom along the waterway.
Yeah.
You know, so you'd never spot anything. But actually, I see so many more natural things, and I start thinking about stuff in a positive way.
Yeah.
You sort of work it out when you've done half hour, an hour, whatever, paddleboarding. You sort of feel like both physically and mentally you've had a therapy.
Yeah, that's it, and that's why it's such a beautiful sport, because it caters for so many different people and their needs. So some people just like to be on the water, so they're happy to be on their knees, bobbing, feeling the movement of the water underneath their feet or their knees, however they're standing. And some people want to exert a bit more energy, so they paddle a bit faster. So it really does cater for everyone, because you can get out of it what you want to put into it.
I love it. Now, tell me about some of the people who come to your centre. I know you've got one particular person who doesn't do that much activity, but just floats.
Yeah. So we had one gentleman come who suffers with a lot of mental health issues, and he's very aware of that. He knows what he likes and what he doesn't like, and he actually came to us, hired a kayak, didn't want to paddle. He just drifted out into the middle of our area, just laid down and just relax, and that was his way of de-stressing, like relaxing, letting go,
switch out.
However, and what was really great is that he's so self-aware that he can do that. He knows what works for him, and like you said, like the seeing and hearing water and the feel of the water as well. Like some people like just like the ripple of the water underneath their board, so it's not dead set. It's just like a baby.
Yeah, there's a bit of movement.
Do you know what I mean? A bit of movement,
it?
and then it just relaxes people.
Yeah.
And obviously you got to feel it and the hearing, like the birds, and it was just great having that facility that we could offer that to him.
That's lovely.
And it was great. He came off and he was a bigger chap, and like he obviously finds sports hard, but just wanted to just go out there and lay down on the kayak, which was great.
Amazing. And I think we were created to be near nature, be near water, and all that medical evidence is that if you see green nature, your blood pressure drops, your levels of stress hormones drop, and the same hearing water and feeling water, the sensory things, are so good for our bodies, aren't they?
Yeah.
Now, you're an entrepreneur, you're running a business, and it's growing, and I know that comes with time pressures. And how are you coping with this? I mean, it must be so different to working shift work for the police, but how are you managing that, you being your own boss?
Yeah, so it's great and presents its own challenges at the same time. So in the police, it was nice that you could go to work, you do your shift, you clock off, that's it. And you don't even have to think about it as well. Sometimes, obviously, you go to jobs that do play on your mind and stuff like that, but majority of the time, you switch off, you go home, and then you do it all again when you go into your next shift. The difference being with your own boss is that you don't have that luxury a lot of the time, especially with mobile phones as they are now. It's not a case of just closing a laptop and you're done from work. You get your emails, you get your work calls, you get everything like that all coming through to your mobile device, which, let's be honest, isn't far from the end of your hand.
Exactly.
So if there's emails, pick them up. So it carries that stress on itself.
So what kind of hours are you keeping in this new role as a sort of business owner?
I've had this question asked before with like hours that you work. I don't think you don't turn off. You don't stop working as a business owner. From you sleep, you wake up, first thing you do, check your phone, open your emails, see what emails have come, straight away back on the clock. It's a constant working environment. I find that in order to be really switched off, you have to be really disciplined, and the only way to do that is by turning your phone off. Which I don't feel comfortable doing sometimes, because I could miss a really important call or something.
Safety aspect for you, isn't it? And the same for me. I have to have like a call answering service for emergency medical calls that they still come through, but you sort of you receive them in a certain way. It's really hard when you're a business owner, isn't it? Now, how do you get out of work mode when you go underwater? Do you switch off?
The ironic thing is that I don't spend as much time on the water wakeboarding, for example, as I did before I owned a business.
Okay, interesting. And that was the drive to get to
more before I owned it, because I'm not a control freak, but I like to oversee everything. And I think if I'm out on the water, it's all well and good, but I'm still looking at what's going on, especially if we're open.
You're safety aware, aren't you?
All the time. So switching off can be quite hard.
Do you get a few rounds of the lake at the end when everyone's gone home?
I can do. But to be honest, at the end, when everyone's gone home, I want to go and see my family.
Yeah.
I don't live that close to the lake. We live like an hour away.
So you got to trek to work.
Yeah,
right, okay.
So I've got an hour's commute home, and then, but family's the most important thing for me.
100%.
So yeah, as much as I'd love to stay and hang out and do a few laps on the cable, I'd rather go home, see the kids. Yeah.
Does anyone in the family enjoy the water sports like you do?
Not as much as I do.
Yeah.
My youngest is 7, and I've got a 10-year-old girl. He loves kayaking. Neither of them, funny enough, enjoy wakeboarding. So
it's quite. I think it's quite scary actually, the way you get towed along.
Yeah.
Like, I did it as an adult. I don't think I would have tried it as a kid. But it's. I always thought it was a bit scary when you get to the corners, because then it suddenly speeds up and you've got to learn how to not just get thrown off the edge of the thing.
Yeah. And the problem with at a young age is when it goes wrong, it can hurt. So
and you feel like it's a catastrophe, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, because if you look at it and you think, I'm just going to be skipping across the water like this, and then when it goes wrong, it just feels terrible and you're scared.
It's that dreaded front edge. You catch that front edge
and you're gone.
Face plant in the water.
Yeah,
that's enough to put kids off. And that happened to my daughter. She face planted. She's like, I'm not interested.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, to get them back from that?
Yeah, it's hard. It is hard to get them back from that. She loves paddleboarding.
Yeah.
So she'll jump on a paddleboard and just go paddle around for ages.
That's a good way in. It's a good way in, isn't it?
And when we're open, like my youngest Ollie, he loves getting in a kayak and going telling our customers that the time's up and stuff.
Come in number 5, your time is up.
Yeah, that's exactly what he does. He goes paddling out. He's like, you need to come in now. It's like this little blonde 7-year-old kid telling these people that they need to come back in. And I mean, don't get me wrong, they expect paying at the end of the day for it as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
Teaching them young, you don't do anything for free.
Good call. Yeah, mine's always trying to get money for washing the car.
Yeah, exactly.
This show's all about sort of balance of work and life. What's your lifestyle like when you're at work? Like, talk to me about things like nutrition and diet and that kind of thing. What are you eating when you're working day?
So it all depends how busy we are. I've never been one that's I'm awful with diets. I'm a sucker for food. Like, I've got no willpower when it comes to.
So you love food?
Yeah, I just love food.
Yeah.
The worst is, like, when I was working in the police, obviously working shifts, it was a nightmare because, like, you're eating at all hours of the day and you eat when you can, other than a scheduled break, because sometimes you don't get them. And then McDonald's give you a discount. So what you find is you're constantly going and eating fast food, which isn't good. With the lake, it all depends how busy. Sometimes I skip meals because I'm just too busy. If I'm out on the water repairing something, I'll be out there for hours. I just won't even think about food. I'll just miss it.
Yeah.
My diet's not great.
I
find it hard.
No, it's hard, isn't it, when you're always on? Is there like any way you can get food at the lakes?
Yeah, so there's a cafe there that do your basic cafe food, sandwiches, pasties, all that sort of stuff. A McDonald's is opened at the end of the flipping driveway into the lake. So
fast food's still the thing, isn't it?
Still, it's everywhere. You can't get away from it.
Sometimes, and sometimes, ice cream. Well, sunny weather, hot weather.
Yeah.
I suppose it all requires a bit of preparation, doesn't it? Like you, when you were working in the police, I worked in prison.
Yeah.
And in prison, it's just chips with everything, including for the staff. So like you had to be really prepared to get something through, but I had to make it and then leave it in a plastic box so they could see it and check it, because otherwise they thought you might take something in that was dodgy, even though I'm a doctor. Trust me. So it was a lot of effort to actually get the right food, and I always gained weight when I was in that environment, because you're stressed, you never know quite when you're going to eat or when there's going to be lockdown, and it's really hard with that uncertainty. Your body doesn't know where it is, does it?
No, it really doesn't. And I should be more disciplined. I should prepare meals and take them in, which I do sometimes, but it's usually just leftovers from the night before or something like that. Meal preparation I'm awful with, and I should do better.
Should's a dangerous word though, isn't it? Because we drive ourselves with should.
Yeah.
And I think the question is, what could we do, and what little steps might we do to make that happen? Do you know what I mean? So like leftovers isn't a bad choice, because actually, if you or your other half's prepared it, you know what's gone into it, so it's not going to be full of restaurant junk or like junk, salt and sugar, unless you've put it in. So at least you're knowing what you've got. And if you're eating often a lot of people only eat sort of one healthy meal a day because it's the one they do in the evening at home. Yeah. But if you ate that twice a day, and that was relatively healthy. Plus, are you fairly active at work?
Yeah, constantly.
So you burn enough energy, so you need energy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm over 40 now, so my metabolism's completely shut down.
Slowing down, right?
back in my 20s, like I could eat whatever I wanted. And being really active, and my metabolism, like I had 6-pack pecs, everything, because
and breakdancing.
And breakdancing, and then I could pinpoint it. Actually, it was 26. My metabolism, I could overnight just slow down, and then it's slowed down since, and now.
Was that shift work? What were you doing when you were 26? Did you?
Shift work. Shift work and a feeder wife.
Because when I got married at 26, and the same thing happened to me. I stopped rowing at university. I was working shifts at the hospital, 100-hour week, and basically I started eating pudding because I never used to eat pudding before. And then when I got married, I started having pudding, and I gained about 2 stone. And I'm like, how did this happen?
And it happens overnight.
It does, and then suddenly like, oh my goodness, and you've got to work at it. What do you think about? I mean, look, you said you used to like burgers. Obviously, that burgers have got lots of junk, but there's some good stuff in there, protein. I mean, what do you know about nutrition in terms of what you could eat to keep you fuller for longer or to fuel you better?
I don't study it that much. I know, like I eat a lot of meat. I try to eat things that do fill me up. But I don't study ingredients and what goes in, what can sustain me for longer without. I just eat when I want to eat, just because I like
it's
food.
Convenience.
Snacking's the killer.
It is.
Like just in between meals, like snacking away, and oh man, it just kills me.
What do you have at work? Do you have a desk?
So no, well we have at work. I don't have there is an office with a desk up in the building. I never use it. Because I'm always out and about. I'm always walking around at the pier. If we're open at the pier and I'm up there, then I'll be on the pier, talking to the customers.
Sure.
Kind of like, I don't micromanage the staff. I try not to anyway, but I am there to kind of like make sure everybody's doing their job. And I think that comes along the lines of the fact that we're in a watersports, we're in a high risk industry. Anything that could go wrong if someone's not doing something properly, then there's catastrophic mistake.
Potential for risk, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
So you're always on, you're always there, kind of keeping an eye. I'm just thinking of things that you could eat safely that would be available, that a little bit of preparation. Are you allergic to nuts?
No.
So you could eat nuts, for example. Like they're like high fat, so they keep you full. They're not junk food.
Unless they're honey roasted.
I'm talking natural nuts. So I'm envisioning more stuff like mixed nuts, but without the mixed fruit, without the dried fruit, and not like loads of peanuts, because peanuts are quite high in GI. But stuff like walnuts, macadamia nuts, or you could buy a bulk thing of nuts and have a bag of nuts that you dipped into as a snack.
It's a good idea.
Way better for you than chocolate, way better than anything processed. And I always say, if it doesn't look like what it came from, don't eat it. Or don't eat it as much. So if you just had a box of nuts you took to as long as no one else is not allergic, severely allergic, then that might be an option. The other thing is that in a caveman mentality, we know that we'll eat anything that's within arm's reach. So if there's anything around, either you're selling it, or it's within arm's reach in your workplace, you're going to eat it because you see it. It stimulates the hunger. So one, you're surrounded by water, but always have a water bottle so you're well hydrated.
Yeah.
And 2, if there's stuff that you don't want to eat, don't put it in your field of vision.
Yeah.
That might be harder to do if you've got a shop or you're selling energy snacks or whatever.
Yeah.
But where you most are, have an alternative. So prepare yourself with a simple alternative. And even if you cut out some of that snacking and replaced it with healthier stuff like an apple, which is better than coffee at keeping you awake, and some nuts, which because it releases all the natural brain chemicals that stimulate wakefulness, but you don't get that caffeine impact on sleep.
Yeah.
So that can really help you still sleep well, but it's got healthy sugars with fibre and some vitamin C to keep the bugs off.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of apples as a snack.
Yeah.
As long as you're not eating like 10 apples, so they're going to be better for you than anything else. So apples and nuts is a good thing to snack on through the day.
Yeah, I'm a massive fruit fan, to be fair. Like,
Great.
I'd eat a punnet of grapes, like without even thinking about it, or satsumas, man.
Oh, man, satsumas are great. So we've got
Love satsumas.
And they're really good vitamin C, got a bit of fibre, sweet, they're brilliant.
But the thing with diet and shift work is caffeine. Like,
it really messes you
when
up,
you work
doesn't it?
nights,
Yeah.
like, I don't know if it's a psychological thing sometimes or how much of an impact it has, but you think, to get through this night shift, I've got to have a coffee.
I think it's both. It's both. We get a physical and a psychological addiction to coffee. And as doctors and policemen, we were fed coffee to keep going, weren't we?
100%.
Or tea, all the time. So I had to wean myself off it. And you know, caffeine stays in your system for 12 hours. 12 hours later, there's still half as much caffeine in your system.
Really?
So if you have a coffee at 12, half of that will still be in your system at midnight. So my advice is, if you want to go to bed before midnight, stop drinking caffeine before noon.
Wow.
All right, and drink something else. Yeah. So water, herbal tea without caffeine. Yeah. So we've talked quite a few little tips there that might help. Just because it's the little things that you do on a day-to-day basis that become your health.
Yeah, 100%.
And I love a quote from Hippocrates who said, "Let food be your medicine, lest medicine become your food." So basically, you are what you eat. Yeah. And I think a couple of little, changes there might just push you in the right direction.
Oh no, definitely. That's really interesting with the nuts and the fruit, with the apple.
Simple things, and all you got to do is just prepare and buy them in advance. Yeah. Watch out for cashews; they taste good, but they've got lots of sugar in too.
I really like that, man.
Now,
I love cashews.
I know we love all the carby ones, don't we? Now, some exciting news for you. You're, I believe, launching a new centre in Lichfield.
Yeah, so we're in talks with the council. We've had the heads of terms come through and stuff for a water sports venue at Lichfield at Stowpool. So subject to planning permission at the moment, which has got to go through, but we should be bringing stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, pedalers, and open water swimming.
Oh, open water swimming, love it. Yeah.
Oh, it's the massive thing at the moment, and
everyone loves it, don't they?
Oh, they really do. But specifically, like, it seems to be middle-aged women's thing. They love it. Like, you know how they say that middle-aged men cycle, so you get your mammals. Middle-aged man in lycra.
Yeah.
Our swimming instructor is always telling me that middle-aged women swim.
Love it.
Open water swim with no wetsuits on or anything.
Fantastic.
Just off they go.
And again, what I love is it's still a therapeutic indication.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, we've run out of time to talk more, but it's been so interesting talking to you today.
No, it's been brilliant. Thanks for having me.
Thanks very much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Dr. Ben.
And to the listeners, hope you enjoyed that. Looking forward to you joining us on another episode of Health versus Wealth with Dr. Ben. So I do hope you enjoyed today's episode of Health versus Wealth with Dr. Ben, and I hope it may help you improve your life and health. You can also take one easy step by achieving that right now by subscribing free on your usual podcast platform. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can email me on podcast@drfinlays.co.uk. I hope you'll join me again, but for now it's goodbye from me, Dr. Ben.